stories. Stories that teach, stories that heal, stories that help us understand those things which we don't quite get. The great Danish storyteller Hans Christian Andersen gives us a tale that helps us to understand how, by facing adversity, we can understand the nature of our own power. And that sometimes those things or situations that we find the most difficult can actually be our greatest teachers. Ladies and gentlemen, the Snow Queen. Long ago and far away in the land of the Aurora Borealis, there lived a beautiful queen. She was tall, with long, white hair, razor-sharp fingernails, and eyes that glittered blue like ice. She was the Snow Queen. Now, she had a magic mirror that she loved to play with, and when she held this magic mirror up to humanity, everything that was good and true appeared twisted and ugly. Now, one day she decided to try an experiment. She flew high up in the sky, and she took the mirror, and as hard as she could, she threw it down, and it spun round and round and round until it crashed into the side of a mountain, shattering into a million pieces. A wind whipped up and spread it far and wide. Now, if you got a shard of this glass in your eye, everything in your life would appear distorted and cynical. But worse still, if you got a shard of this ice in your heart, then slowly, over time, your heart would turn into ice. Now, a few hundred miles south, in a small village, there lived two children, Gerda and Kay. Gerda and Kay loved each other as only two children can. They did everything together. They played together, they laughed together, they danced together. In the summer months, the thing they loved to do best was to tend the rose bushes that grew in between their houses. And in the winter, they liked nothing better than to sit up in Gerda's grandmother's house and listen to her tell tales of her home far beyond the lake that never freezes, in a land by the sea. She would say, "Now, children, on stormy nights, I would sit up high atop the lighthouse with my father, and he would hold up the light that would guide the sailors to safety." Why do I tell you this story? Because in every human heart, there is such a lighthouse. And if you ever feel lonely or afraid, or you don't know where to go or what to do, put your hands on your heart, say your prayers, and all will be well. Now, one day, when they were at Gerda's grandmother's, Kay was sitting on the window ledge, looking out at the snow falling down. And as he was looking, he thought he saw looked like a face of the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. She had long, white hair, razor-sharp fingernails, and eyes that glittered blue like ice. As he looked at her, she reached out her hand and beckoned for him to come. Kay jumped back, and at that moment, a raven flew by the window. Now, the next day, Gerda and Kay were out playing in the snow as they liked to do. They'd gone tobogganing, and on the way home, they found a stick. And they picked it up, and they decided to draw pictures of the roses that grew in between their houses. Beautiful red roses. And they drew pictures of these roses in the icy snow. Now, as the clock struck 5, a wind came up and, "Ow!" said Kay. "Something is in my, ow! Oh, there's something in my heart." Gerda ran up to Kay Kay and tried to see what was in her friend's eyes, but she couldn't see anything. But because she loved him so much, she began to cry. "What are you crying for, stupid girl?" And he pushed her into the snow. In the days that followed, Kay would have nothing to do with Gerda. He would not look at her. He would not play with her. The thing he liked to do more than anything else was to take his sled and go into the village square, attach his sled onto the back of another sled so he could get a really good ride. Well, one day, he was doing just that. He picked up his sled and he took it into the village square when he saw the most amazing looking sled he had ever seen. It was white and big and glistening, and the driver was tall with a rough wool mantle. So he crept up as fast as he could, as quietly as he could, and put down the sled, tied it to the back of the great white sled, and sat. Before you know it, went around the village square 1, 2, 3 times. It was very exciting. He was laughing, but then before you know it, the sled took off and went out of the village. Kay leaned forward and tried to undo his sled, but every time he did, the driver of the sled turned back to him and looked, and he found that he could not move. He began to cry, but the tears froze on his face. He tried to shout out, but no sound came. Finally, the great white sled came to a halt. The driver stood up and looked at him. It was the same beautiful woman he had seen in the snow. It was the Snow Queen. "Oh, look, how tired you are. You must be cold. Come up here and sit here with me." Kay scrambled forward and sat beside the cold, cold body of the Snow Queen. She wrapped her mantle around him and kissed him one time on the forehead. Her kiss was like an icy wound. But Kay all of a sudden began to feel better, and slowly he forgot all about Gerda and grandmother. The sled took off and flew up into the aurora borealis. But what of Gerda, you might be thinking? Well, back in her little village, everybody was looking far and wide for Kay, but they could not find him, and after weeks of searching, they gave up. They said, "Well, we don't know. I mean, he might have run away, or he might have gone to the lake that never freezes and fallen in. We don't know. He's either dead or he's run away, but we can't look for him anymore." But Gerda knew her friend was not dead and had not run away. So one morning, she got up very early, and she took her most precious possessions, a pair of ruby red shoes. She tied them on her feet. She kissed her sleeping grandmother goodbye, and she crept out into the winter morning. "Is my friend Kay dead and gone?" she cried up to the rising sun. "No, I do not think so." "Is my friend Kay dead and gone?" The raven said, "No, we do not think so." So with great passion, Gerda walked to the shores of the lake that never freezes, and she took off her shoes, and she held them up and said, "These are my very favorite possessions. I will give them to you if you will tell me where my friend has gone." And she threw them onto the lake, but they just popped right back. She picked them up again, and she threw them, this time with more force. But once again, the lake just popped them back out at her feet. A great rage rose up in Gerda, and she picked up the shoes and said, "I will have my friend!" And she threw them into the center of the lake. They went down, 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 and when they reached the bottom, a great storm began to brew. Waves as tall as the church tower began to rise up, first one, then the other, and on the third wave, a ship sat. captained by a wizened old man with one tooth. As the ship set down in front of her, the captain said, "Come on board, little sailor. We go to find your friend." The waves crash in and the sky pulls out. It's an angry sea, but there is no doubt that the lighthouse will be shining out to warn the lonely sailor. The lightning strikes and the wind strikes cold through the sailor's bones to the sailor's soul, and there's nothing left that we can hold except this roaring motion. But I'm ready for the storm. Yes, so ready I'm ready for the storm. I'm ready for the storm. Give me mercy for my dreams, for every confrontation seems to tell me what it really means to be this lonely sailor. And when the sky begins to clear and the sunlight melts away my fear, I'll cry a silent, lonely tear for those that need to love me. And I'm ready for the storm. Yes, so ready I'm ready for the storm. I'm ready for the storm. The ship set sail on the end of a frozen world. A reindeer waited for her, and without knowing why, she climbed on his back, and they went for what seemed like an eternity. Eventually they came to an edge of a city. The reindeer said, "This is where you will find your friend, my girl. For this is the city of the Snow Queen." Distant cities, no real friend, and time will take its time, and you will find that in the end it always leads you here to me. And when you take me by your side, you love me, won't you love me? And I know I realize I had no reason to be frightened. And I'm ready for the storm. Yes, so ready I'm ready for the storm. I'm ready for the storm. I am ready for the storm. Yes, I'm ready I'm ready for the storm. I'm ready for the storm. Gerda stared at the city in front of her. "This, my child, is where I must leave you," said the reindeer, and turned to go. "You can't leave me. Look, I have no coat, I have no boots, and I don't know where to go in there. I don't know what... You have to help me. Don't go, please. Please, you must give me something, some kind of power so that I know what I can do." The great animal looked at her. Large tears ran down his face. "I can give you no power other than what you already have." And he turned and was gone. Gerda began to walk toward the city, and a storm began to brew. Snowflakes the size of white geese began to push into her, knocking her down once and twice and 3 times. The last time she found herself lying on the snow, she remembered her grandmother's face. She put her hands on her heart. She thought of the lighthouse. She said her prayers. and she stood up. All of a sudden, a throng of angels surrounded her. And now, with no obstacles in front of her, she ran into the halls of the Snow Queen, halls made of nothing but snow and wind. She ran and ran for what seemed like an eternity until she came to the shores of a lake. Frozen into 1,000 pieces it was. And in the center of it sat the most beautiful woman that she had ever seen. She was tall, with long white hair, razor-sharp fingernails, and eyes that glittered blue like ice. Beside her sat her friend, Kay. He was blue, no, he was almost black, with cold. The Snow Queen was speaking to Kay. Kay, if you take those geometrically shaped pieces of ice, yes, just bring them over to you, very good. If you take those pieces of ice and form them into the word that I am now thinking, then you will become the master of yourself. Now, I must be off to the warm lands. She gave him one last kiss, and away she went. Gerda saw her friend, saw that there was no one else there, and began to walk towards him. Kay! Kay, it's me! It's me, Gerda! Kay, come on, wake up, look at me! But you see, he could not. He could not think. He was so benumbed with cold. Seeing that her friend could not hear her or see her, Gerda began to cry. And as she cried, her tears fell down onto his shoulders, permeating down towards his chest. And as they entered into his heart, they melted the shard of glass that was there. As the shard of glass began to melt, he began to cry, and as Kay cried, the shard of glass in his eye was cleansed away. He looked around. Gerda, where am I? What is this cold, terrible place? And Gerda was so happy. She looked at her friend and she picked him up and she kissed his eyes until they were shining. She kissed his cheeks until they were blooming. She kissed his hands and feet until they were warm and healthy. They began to dance, and the dance was so joyful that even the ice began to laugh with joy. They were dancing so happily that they did not see that they had kicked the geometrically shaped pieces of ice into a word, the word that the Snow Queen had been thinking. The word was eternity. Thus, Gerda and Kay became masters of their own selves. So they left the palace of the Snow Queen, and everywhere they went, the sun came out. Ruby red rose bushes popped out of the ground. They met the reindeer, and he gladly carried them to the edge of the lake that never freezes, where the Wizendo's captain with one tooth said, "Come aboard, my dears. I will take you home." As they stepped onto the ship's deck, they looked at each other and realized that they had grown up, that they were no longer children. Well, children at heart, perhaps, as we all are. The waves crash in and the sky pours out. It's an angry sea, but there is no doubt that the lighthouse will be shining out to warn the lonely sailor. And when you take me by your side, you love me, won't you love me? And I should have realized I had no reason to be frightened. And I'm ready for the storm. I'm ready